So when we first start out, the way that we normally, that's such a crooked line, it won't autocorrect it for me. So when we first start out, the way that we normally set it up is that they're making a positive economic profit. So we start out somewhere like there. And so we're always, in all three of these market structures, we're going to produce where the marginal revenue is equal to the marginal cost. So we're going to find where that is. X marks the spot. And we're going to drop an anchor to get our Q star. Then we're going to go up, 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 up to the demand, because why not? That's how much we could charge, so that's how much we are going to charge. And in this particular setup, just like we had before, we can see that we're earning positive economic profits, right? The average total cost is right here. So this whole region here is positive economic profits. Any questions about that? Yep. Will the MC always curve down? In the book examples, in this chapter, it doesn't always. Sometimes it just starts and then increases. I'm never going to penalize you for drawing it the same way for all three markets. You know what I mean? I'm sure there are some nuanced reasons for why there's no declining region on the marginal cost curve for when it's in monopolistic competitive. But for the most part, there is a downward sloping part of it. It might just be outside the relevant range of production, if that makes sense. Good question. That's a good question. Because yeah, it is slightly different in the book. The book kind of essentially erases a lot of this tail and just kind of starts it off like right there, right? And that could be because it's saying, well, let's just start it off from the minimum AVC point at this point. You know what I mean? Since we know that's the shutdown point, we know that nobody's actually going to be operating on the other side of the Nike swoosh tail, on the left side of it. So we might as well just leave it. You know what I mean? But for me, I know that's a really great mnemonic to help y'all remember what shape each curve is. So that's why I want to kind of keep it the same throughout all three chapters, you know? That's a solid question, though. All right, so entry and exit dynamics. It's not as easy as perfectly competitive firms, but there aren't barriers to entry, and there is information. People are aware that you're making a positive economic profit. So as we explained by the previous section, there's going to be an increase in the number of suppliers or the number of producers, right? That increase in the number of producers is going to decrease this starting price, right? If we want to think about it like that. And so all of these things, right? And I think I can actually, I think I might be able to, oh, look at me using the computer like I should. Maybe. I thought I could keep it together. And so I'm just going to move these just down a little bit. That was actually too much, huh? All right. So actually, that was actually proper. So now let's just increase this guy a little bit here. So now at our new marginal revenue curve, And our new demand curve, so this is marginal revenue 2, this is demand 2. Now we're going to find actually let's just stick with red just so it's different. We're going to find Q double star. And then we're going to go up to the demand curve, right, my D2 now, and this is going to tell me my price. And now what's happening with average profit? At Q2, my total cost is above my equilibrium price. And so instead of getting a positive average profit, we're actually getting a negative average profit or an economic loss. Right? So this is going to be some sort of negative number. So we could call it a negative profit, or we could call it a loss, or whatever we like to call it, right? So essentially, so everybody sees that there's this positive economic profit. So as a result, everybody piles into the industry. That impacts the equilibrium price in the market, which impacts our demand curves. And the new demand curves and marginal revenue curves, the profit maximizing or loss minimizing equilibrium quantity is such that we are now making a loss, right? And so if this were the case, then just like when there's a positive economic profit, it's incentivizing firms to enter the industry and lower the demand curve. If there is negative profit, that's incentivizing firms to exit the industry and increase the demand curve. So all of this is saying that eventually we get to some point, and I'm not going to use colors just to keep it real fast. Well, I'll use a little bit of color. Let's keep with the book. Eventually, we will get to a point where our demand curve is exactly touching our average total cost curve, right where the marginal cost crosses the marginal revenue curve. So there's going to be entry and exit up until the point, and again, we drop an anchor, Q star, we go up to the demand, we find our P star, and now what's going on in this particular graph? Are they making positive or negative economic profits? Trick question. Zero. They're making zero economic profits, right? When the price is exactly equal to the average total cost, that means that I'm making zero economic profits. So this point here, right, where it's tangent, where it's just touching the average total cost, this is our long-run equilibrium for monopolistically competitive firms. There's going to be entry and exit into the industry until we get to this point where people are making zero economic profits. And again, why do people want to make zero economic profits? Because that's still positive accounting profit. So zero economic profits is still, you know, $150,000 in the black every year, right? It's just essentially saying that people aren't making abnormally large profits in this industry. Yeah, right.
Would this be the point if you were in an industry like this where you would try and do more differentiation and then break yourself away so you're in a different category to increase your, to change it? I'm just trying to...
No, that's a good question.
Like if you saw this in an industry and you said, look, if I innovate and I am able to break myself away to change my demand curve myself, then I break myself into a different category, I guess.
Yeah. You would want to essentially you would want to differentiate your product so much so that there is no even close substitute.
Right.
Absolutely.
For a short time.
Right.
Because eventually everybody's going to catch up if you do something.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, reverse engineering and stuff like that, right? And that's why, Samsung sued Apple and Apple sued Samsung, because they both stole features from each other, right? Good. That's a good question. Okay.